We are facing an extinction level event. Elon Musk is the only famous person really talking about this. And I mean, as I always say on my show, you can't have a country if you don't have children. Japan, Russia, Western Europe, they're over. South Korea has the lowest birth rate in the world. To maintain even population, you have to have, every woman has to have 2.1 kids. South Korea is like 0.6 or something. It's insane. They're literally, we're watching entire cultures and countries go extinct right now. Okay.
That Korea is in bad shape, or South Korea is in bad shape right now.
Yeah, birth rate wise, and North Korea is obviously a complete disaster for other reasons.
You know, I tell you what's funny is when people throw the birth, like we've been below replacement level
for a long time,
since the mid 70s.
Yeah, and let me tell you something.
That's when we should have been banging the gong about this,
right?
Since the mid 70s,
or just banging.
I don't know if you, that too. I don't know if you saw the episode I did. Actually, I did a show about a couple of years ago with George Gammon, and we were talking about Malthusian
economics,
which is basically just population control. And
that's what the left believes in. They believe in Malthusian economics. They believe there's limited supply, that people are the scourge of the earth, and I think people are the resource. I like people. You know, people are, the next person is going to solve this problem, cure that cancer. You know, if we don't have more people, we have less discoveries, we have less innovation. The people are the, in every company they have a department. It's called human resources because the people are the resource.
Yeah, exactly. When we had that conversation, we were talking about this, and it was actually George who kind of like woke me up to this. Was like, we're in a situation right now where we live in an era, I guess, where we have nuclear weapons, we have like war and bloodshed. We still have war today. We still have people shooting each other and stuff, but we don't have like world wars right now.
We have a nuclear deterrent
for now, but we have nuclear deterrence. So it used to be warfare that was sort of like the culling of the population, right? Now we can't do that. So how are we going to find new ways to do that? Well, we've got hormonal birth control. We've got on-demand abortion. We've got I keep saying this, is that the advent or the invention of hormonal birth control was more significant an invention than atomic weapons. Right. Because what it did was it drove a wedge between men and women. And so if you wanted to destroy populations, I can't think of any better way to do it than take the reproductive imperative between two sexes and give it to one sex.
Right.
And let them decide, right? And so if you look at all the things that have happened, I'm working on this little book right now called 1971, right? Because between the dates of 1965 and 1975, if you look at all the civil changes, the cultural changes in Western societies, you had hormonal birth control skyrockets. It existed before that, but it was more popular. It was more encouraged for women to be taking it right around the time of the sexual revolution, right? Which of course triggered the sexual revolution. Then you see the rise of spike in divorces, which almost mirrors the divorce rate, mirrors the use of hormonal birth control. Then you've got no fault divorce because there's so much divorce happening that they've got to streamline it. They got to fast track divorce and make it easier. Then 1971, we go off the gold standard. Now suddenly women are like, oh, this is so great. Now women can finally have a savings and they can have credit and everything. But not because of Gloria Steinem and Betty Friedan, but because the insurance companies and the banks said, fuck yeah, we're on a fiat currency. You can have whatever you want now.
So what Rollo's saying, for those who maybe didn't quite catch the connection there, is that, of course, I want to talk about the birth control thing for sure, because that's huge. You didn't talk about how it changes women's way of acting and biochemistry, and why we definitely should mention that. But in terms of the money, on August 15th of 1971, Richard Nixon cut the last tether to the gold standard, which meant the government could be completely undisciplined after that. And every politician, the way they get in power and maintain power is by handing out goodies, right? So who's going to give the most money to the most special interest groups? And so that allowed the government to become the new husband. Before that, the government didn't have the money to become the new husband, right? And so that's when women no longer needed a man. But think about the deal they've got now. The deal they've got now sucks for them. It's terrible. Like, basically, the argument from the feminists, like Gloria Steinem said, well, a woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle. It's pathetic, right? It's stupid.
Isn't it interesting that in 2024 we're still quoting that?
Yeah, I know. She was evil. Anyway, So now, basically what you have is, instead of women being dependent on men, they're dependent on a corporation. Get back in your cubicle, do some more software work, make a new spreadsheet. Like, this is the deal women have, instead of a man who at least would hopefully love them and, be their real partner.
Yeah.
A corporation has no loyalty to them. This whole idea of independence it's a myth. It's a complete myth.
Yeah. I was going to say, a really good friend of mine is actually sort of a Christian red pill blogger guy. His name is Dalrock. And I can remember we having this discussion with him. He said somewhere right around between 1965 and 1970, we left, or we abandoned this model of the marriage-based model of raising children to a child support-based model.
Yeah,
of
Kramer
raising
versus Kramer.
Yes,
that was
exactly.
a fundamental movie
And
that changed
all
it.
About, it was no longer about being married to raise children. It was about who is putting the money into the kitty for the
So let's talk
child.
about how we got a whole generation of fucked up kids because of that, right? So when you have mom and dad have split up, okay, and now they have joint custody, and the kid is spending 3 nights a week at one house, 4 nights a week at another house, and each parent now is trying to win over those kids.
Right.
So the kids have become a pawn in a war, and now they're spoiling the kids. Everyone now, the parents have to be the kid's friend instead of a disciplinarian, which a parent needs to be sometimes. And they're just giving them stuff and spoiling these kids. And look at the outcome of that. I mean, it's just people who, through no fault of their own, the kids subconsciously think that the world owes them a living. And that doesn't make a good adult.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're looking right now at, I think also part of the transition from like we're still in the sexual revolution right now. We're still in the middle of a very long-term experiment right now. And so when you look at like, was it 1972 or 73 when we had Roe v. Wade? Now we have not only do we have hormonal birth control, we have a fail-safe for bad reproductive choices. We put Title IX on the table, and also if you look at productivity, as women come into the workforce, productivity skyrockets, but like mean average wages stay the same.
Yeah. There's
exactly
big
the same
delta between those two.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
a very good point you make.
Yeah. So you look at some, I keep telling people, so if you're going to go back and look at the fertility rate, for example, if you're going to go back and look at divorce versus, like, we're at the lowest point, the lowest rate of marriage in recorded history in the United States.
It's awful.
Where did it start? 1965-ish, right? Same thing with the abortion and everything. If you look at divorce, like when did divorce start going up? Right around 1971, right at that point, right as women are coming into the workforce, and now they can have loans, and now they can have credits and everything on their own. And so you have all this social changes that are going on, and they all point back to one point in time.
Yeah. I want to go back in time a little bit, Rollo, before that, if we can, for a second. Let's go back to the end of World War II. Okay. So you're 1945, 1946, right? They've got the big deal in the money world was called Bretton Woods, where basically the whole world got together in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire at a ski resort. And I think it was during the summer though. And they decided that the US dollar would be the global reserve currency. And that gave the US a tremendous advantage, but the US did some things to earn that, okay? And basically the US agreed to police every waterway on the planet, every sea on Earth, right? And make trade safe for the world. And that was a great contribution to the world. The US definitely made a lot of contributions. The Marshall Plan to rebuild Europe, they rebuilt Japan. I mean, the US did a lot of really good things, okay? But we did get the reserve currency. So then we had this baby boom after World War II, right? And there was a lot of home building, a lot of construction, and everything, the economy was booming. But then it lost some steam after a while. So now think about it. You're a government, you're a politician, and you're in government, and you're in the 50s, and you're thinking, well, gosh, this boom isn't going to last forever. What do we need to do? Well, half of the country is not in the workforce. Half of the country is just sitting at home, serving, in their mind, no economic value, being moms, right? And so they're sitting at home, they're not producing tax revenue, and they're also not consuming. And you then think about it. You're some bigwig in the corporatocracy. You're a consumer goods company, you're Procter and Gamble, you're whatever, right? I don't know what company. GE would be a better example. And you're sitting there thinking, gosh, if people would have 2 households instead of 1. We could sell 2 refrigerators, 2 sofas, 2 beds, 2 cars. We could sell 2 of everything, 2 coffee makers, 2 toasters. We could double our market share. So if you can start to manipulate the narrative and the media to recommend that people, women especially, get their power and get a divorce and do their own thing, right? Then you can sell 2 of everything. You can double your tax revenue. You can double the size of the GDP, the economy. I mean, it's a great deal. If you're government or corporatocracy, you want discontent. You want to breed discontent in marriage. And if people are married, you want to get them to divorce. If people aren't married, you want to get them to stay single because it's better for the numbers.
Yeah. I was going to say, and a lot of the stuff that happened prior to the sexual revolution that was stigmatized during those times is simply like, now it's like something to be proud of. Like if you were a single mother prior to 1965, that was something that brought shame upon the family, right? And right now, to be a single mother is like a point of pride, right? Yeah, 42% of children are born out of wedlock right now. Now, of course, what they say, oh, well, it's because men don't stick around and blah, blah, blah. It's like everything comes back on. They want to wipe it back off on the guys. They always want to put it back on the guy.
Right.
But it's like, that might have been true. You might have had a case, like say in the 80s, maybe even the early 90s and stuff. But we're talking like 45, 60, so we can track back parental involvement over the course of 6 decades right now. So looking at things, I think was like,
I'm sure you've read the book Men on Strike. I'm sure you know this book,
Helen,
right?
Helen.
Well, not Fisher, the other Helen. But it's written by women, but it just points out all these reasons. They're just alienating men. The whole system, the laws are written against them. It's so unfair.
I love it. Because like she made a really good point. It's like men are not actually on strike like voluntarily. They are because that's the only logical, pragmatic thing for them to do, right? And so like when I have to like defend like the red pill or the manosphere or any of the stuff, like whenever I give information about stuff, like we talk about fertility, right? We can talk, people will agree with you until you start saying, well, and here's the decisions and here's the statistics for why these things exist. And if it's something that's unflattering to the female, it's like people lose their shit, right?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And so like, for instance, like what I was saying before is like when we're talking about, the Gloria Steinem quote, a woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle. We're still quoting that in there, we're kind of making, paraphrasing it up to right now. I'd said this once, that women are becoming the men that they want to marry, right? That's not Rollo Tomassi. That's Gloria Steinem, 1970.
Yeah, good point.
Right. And so whenever I'm on like Fresh and Fit, or if I'm on my own show, or if I'm watching whatever podcast or something, I'm listening to the young women who are probably in their early 20s mouthing the words from Betty Friedan and Gloria Steinem from 1970, and they don't know where they're getting this from. They just know that it's just part of it's part
of the culture.
It filtered into their brains somehow through popular culture, through music, through whatever it is that was going on at the time. And they don't know. And I always ask, and I stop and go, where did you learn that from? Like, what did your mom teach you that? Or did you go to school and learn this?
Well, they've been brainwashed in school, that's for sure.
Because we keep coming back to very, very old memes. And that's why I kept saying.
But in the music, it's the messages in the music, right? I can, there's all these songs. I can't think of any of them right now, but modern songs that I can love myself better than you can love me. What's that song? It's a good song, actually. But, this is very convincing.
That's why I say I think culture.
The song all about the bass encouraging women to be fat. I mean, like, no, that's not a good idea.
Well, I think, but again, like musical,
the food supply has been poisoned. So
music. That's a good point as well. But music as a cultural movement is still stagnated. It's still locked in the era that it was created in. The same thing happens with feminism right now. We're still like young women, 19 to 29 right now, are still locked in 1970s feminism, and they don't even know that they are, because that's where we stopped culturally when it was about empowering women. I want to be a strong and independent woman. Where did that come from? That came from 1970s militant feminism is where that came from. You don't know that, but you are proud of that. You're still proud
now
of
it's just in the ether.
Something that you have. It's what is it? The epistemology of it, right? It's like you have a belief set, but you don't know how you came to that belief, right? And so,
but all of us have that with everything, right?
So, but still, we're like you were asking, like, what about the music, like of like the 70s and the 80s, right? Were we more naive then, or were we just or is it just, are we still locked in that
It's
era up here?
It's always supply and demand,
Mhm.
right? So if you kind of think of it as though, look at men chase, women choose.
Mhm.
Okay, that's always been the way it is. I mean, granted, there's force.
Men are
right?
the pitchmen and women are the advertisers.
Yeah. I love
And you,
that.
by the way,
That's really good. I like that.
Stop everything.
That's good.
I use this so often, and I still have to give you credit live. It's like, there was one point where you said Instagram is funnel marketing for women. And I like this is fucking, this guy's a genius.
It's ClickFunnels for women. When I discovered that, when I discovered this gal I was dating, who she didn't actually cheat on me, but she was prospecting on me. Okay,
prospecting.
And
I like that one.
when we were together, and I didn't realize it. I was so naive that her Instagram was like ClickFunnels. Now, ClickFunnels is a popular marketing software,
Sure.
okay, that all marketers pretty much use. And Instagram is ClickFunnels for women. Social medias in general, but especially Instagram. It's ridiculous, right? Why does she need a public Instagram account? She's not an influencer. She's not selling anything to the public. I said to her, why isn't your Instagram private? No, I need it to be public, for no reason at all other than to get simps gratifying her.
Advertising
right?
sexual availability.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. But where were we before that? One step I did want to go, Rollo, is way before that. Let's go like 25 years before World War II, right? And I don't know the exact date, but there was a guy named Edward Bernays who really changed the world. He's credited with inventing basically modern public relations and modern advertising. And you know this story I'm going to say. It was during a parade. He had all these, at the time, it was not socially acceptable for women to smoke cigarettes. And the tobacco companies, just like the corporatocracy and the government in the 50s that I talked about, the tobacco companies realized they were losing half their market. If they could get women to smoke and get them part of the cancer thing, right? That would be great for them because they could make double their money. And so the tobacco companies hired Edward Bernays, this PR genius who's written a couple of books, check them out, about propaganda and so forth. And what he did is during this parade, women were marching in the parade. It wasn't like the march for feminism or anything. They were just marching in the parade for whatever, I don't know why. And he gave them all cigarettes. And he said, at a certain time during the parade on cue, you're going to pull out your cigarettes and light them. And he branded this as what he called torches of freedom. The torches of freedom where women's lived. That was the first big thing for women's liberation. And I think it was in the 20s. Look me up, look up Wikipedia, Edward Bernays. But yeah, it's been this steady deal, right? And look, I wouldn't be here talking against this if I thought it was actually good for women. Women got a raw deal. Feminism has not been good for women at all. I mean, in the past, they would have had a family, they would have had stability, they wouldn't be dying of the same stress-related diseases that men have always been dying of because they're working so hard. It's just been a raw deal. And it's just a conspiracy by the corporatocracy and the government to move these people into the workforce and the consumption force.
Yeah, see, that was more to my point from what we were talking about earlier. Is it a cultural thing or is it a biological thing? Is it an evolutionary thing? And I think that one of the reasons why advertisers, commercial interests can exploit men and women is because they're exploiting these very understandable dynamics in biology, right? So when we're like you were asking before, are men more simpy? Are they less simpy? Whatever. I don't think they're necessarily more or less right now. I think we're far more aware of it right now because we have the access. But the idea of whether you should be more simpish or you should be more masculine, I think that hinges upon the idea of what is conventionally masculine, what is conventionally feminine, and playing one against the other in that sense. So like I was just watching, I just had this as one of my clips on yesterday's show. There's this woman who was talking about two independent studies. One of them was unmarried women, single childless unmarried women are the happiest demographic of women.
Bullshit.
And then she follows this up by saying, and men, the happiest demographic of men are married men between such and such an age. Like, so for men to be happy, they have to be married. For women to be happy, they have to be single and childless, right? Stupid. And I'll tell you the thing is, I could probably go find right now, I could probably go find an article that says that women with children and are married are the happiest demographic, because it's just this constant info stream going on, and there's such conflicting messages about what is going to sort of make you happy and what's not. And I think honestly it's sort of predicated anyways on this idea that happiness should be some sort of metric for a successful life. And it's like, no,
happiness is not a goal.
No, it's not. It's discontent defines the human experience, right? And so, and that's a good thing.
Discontent makes
a
progress.
feature, not a bug, right? And but the fact is, if you can sell women on the idea that their sexuality is going to be evergreen, fear of missing out, you only live once, and and happiness is an attainable long-term goal that you can live in this state of like nirvanic bliss for the rest of your life. If you can sell women on any of those 4 markers right there, you're going to be a millionaire.